Well, I finally got down to doing something in our workshop, our studio workshop, as I like to call it now. We converted it from the garage. I thought I'd show you. I've been posting pictures, work in progress pictures of the desk that I'm making. It's a big project, big piece of furniture, and of course I only have to please myself, so it's a great pleasure for me to be able to do this. It has to meet certain requirements, but they don't have to be with pieces or parts of the project which will never be used. I notice that people have kitchens, which I used to build a lot of kitchens in the UK. And I notice that people love to have lots of drawers and cupboards and things, and they rarely get used to the extent that they are built. So this piece has only to do one function, and that is to book people in to the inn part of our resort project. The customer has to stand there at one level, which is kind of like around chest level or just below, and of course the receptionist sits at a normal level of desk. So it's a split level desk, and I'll show you the different parts. Now, because it has to be taken from the shop to the inn, it has to be transportable, so it has to be carried. Now, even so, it's actually very heavy, but it's going to come into pieces. I'm building it in pieces. Now, this is very easy, except it's easy to plan this, except that we have a floor in the garage which has not been done as I requested it to be done. I asked Beth to make sure that the workers know it has to be level and smooth, and of course they didn't listen to that. They worked out in their head, well, it's a garage, so it doesn't need to be smooth and level. So we're going to have to redo the floor, and I'm thinking about doing it in the self-leveling epoxy products that they make on the market right now. But without further ado, I'll show you what I've been doing and explain, perhaps to your interest, some of the painting techniques and other things that I'm using. Okay, so here, I'll try not to wobble too much. Here's the shop. I don't have a workbench right at the moment. That's the first thing that I will attend to, and organizing everything. At the moment, things are dumped in here, so things which are not in use are just dumped in here. It's a dumping ground. Which I'm going to have to attend to. This is a lot of this stuff was taken from another place and put here, so there are some tools and things in here which will be of use to me, and I will look forward to finding them. But the sad news is that lots of my tools that I would be using on this project were, shall we say, disappeared. Well, you will have seen that it is a pedestal table if you've looked at other videos. This is the basic pedestal unit. This is one side, this is the right hand side, I think, or left hand side, and the other side is down here, and it's being filled. Whoops! It's being filled and sanded and finished, ready for painting. You can see that at the back there, this big part, that's the desk. That's the underneath of the desk. This is a fill-in for the front. And between the two pedestals, this unit here, that's upside down as you're looking at it, that will go in. And let me see. There. I'm doing the video myself, so the wobbly part is my fault. That's how it will look. But the inside, there'll be a special paint finish. Not totally decided on the colour yet, but inside it will have a chrome look about it. Now that's it's a technique that you can get with a product called Rub and Buff. You can see here that it has a silver look about it. And the way that you do that is with a dry brush. You use very, very little. It comes in a tiny tube, which unfortunately I'm going to have to make myself because I can't get this. I can't get these little tubes here. They go a long way, but that's the only tube that I've got. But in order to show you what that effect that has, here's a piece, as they say, that I did earlier. And you can see that the background, first of all, before I did anything, I sanded that down and prepped it so it would take the paint. And then, like that, that's been matte black. Oops, damn this, damn this holder. So, these parts at the back will have this silver look, which it takes a little practice, but you can get that, and it can be a more of a solid look as we got here, or it can have slight marks on it, little, and it's up to you, whatever your taste is. But that look there will be the background striped look there on that front. And here's another, this is a top piece that fits in the front to match up once again with that piece there. So this is just a plain, gosh, I'm getting annoyed with this stand. This is just a plain plywood, as is these. These are all cut from plywood. I'm not, in my own mind, I'm not what you would call a carpenter. And this is not done in the way that a carpenter would do. As I say, I haven't got any drawers or little flaps and openings. It doesn't need that. It just needs a large desk. The top desk there is at a height of, let's say that it's at the height here, about just under the chest. And then this is the underneath. That's the desk level that the receptionist would work to. Okay, so it's done in an Art Deco. This, you would perhaps agree with me, is Art Deco-ish. This is the back of that cabinet. This is what the back of that cabinet looks like. And then this is more of an industrial type. I love looking, when I was in the UK, I love to look in the grand old railway stations, which are right out of the Victorian era. And they did beautiful ironwork, as this is, the effect will be it will be ironwork. That's the idea. And so that's what I'm doing there. And this piece, you can see that this actually looks as is real, the end part of the plywood, as this is plywood. This is a composite, which you've just looked at over there. Now, in order to get that smooth, which is the finish that I really want, I don't want grain, I don't want end grains that you're looking at there. So, once again, here's something else that I can't get. I can't get a water-based wood filler. Water-based wood filler, they're very easy to use. They can almost be painted on, and you can't get them here. Instead, what you have to use is this product here, body filler. And body filler is not an easy thing to use. It's a two-part. You have to mix it up with a tiny measure from the tube, hardener, and then it goes very, very hard. So you've got to be really careful when you're applying it, because if you apply too much, that's a lot of work that you're going to have to do in order to get it flat. So I do the basic in the Bondo, well, it's called Body Tight. I do the basic in that filler, but then I found another product which I've been able to use, and it's this one here. And it's called Skim Coat. Okay, so Super Kinnis, and it's a skim coat in white. And what I do is I mix up some into the paste. Now what they do is they use that for a wall. So when you're looking at the wall, this is quite rough. If you look here, you can see that this is very rough. Well, they go over that in the skim coat. And it's very easy to use, because once it goes off, it will easily sand down and just comes off and into a fine dust. So what I decided was to try it, and I mixed up some, like I said, in a paste. And then I use a paintbrush and I paint that onto the surface. Now you can see that I've gone over the whole thing. And this will actually, it's not dry enough for me to demonstrate, but you can see that that goes on a film that will be sandable without too much elbow. So let's have a look, see if this is dry enough. Now I'm holding the camera and doing the sanding, so forgive me. Now, that is perfectly smooth. There's no feeling of grain or anything there. So all of that will be sanded down. So when the piece is actually carpentry ready, that's the construction part of the build. When it comes to preparing for painting, that's the place that I have to go to. That's the stage that I go to. So everything will be painted in that paste, and then it will all be sanded down. And anything that has to be finished, which is too big a gap, of course, I'll go to the Easy Tight. Oh, it's called Easy Tight. I'll go to the hard filler, which I'll mix up in 2 parts, and that will have to be done. And what that will do, as I said, it will take away all of this and make this perfectly smooth. And with the paint finish that you can see here, this metallic looking paint finish, it doesn't look like wood anymore. So this will not be like wood. Now if you can get all of the colours in rub and buff, or make them, you can dry brush those on. You get the basic of flat back, and then you do the rub and buff afterwards. And if you did the basic silver, you can go over it in blue. And when you're doing dry brushing, it's very much a very, very light touch. So you could actually go over that, do the silver like there, and then come over, and with some very careful brushing of blue, you could make this look like gunmetal. So there's a big adventure. I can't wait to get onto that part, so that I'm doing the special paint finishes, because that's so much fun, and the effects that you can get, especially with the rub and buff, are endless. Now I did have a friend, I think my friend Rob brought me some rub and buff, and he brought me that quite a few years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, and he very kindly brought me that. But the only rub and buff in silver that I can find is this one. which is a drag. But you have to work with what you've got, and that's what we're doing. So I'll make up something that will do the same thing. I'll have to work at it differently, but it will do the same thing. Now what I did was I went out and I got some spray paint. Now that's actually, it's not a bright chrome finish. It's more of a dull, maybe aluminum. So I thought I'd try that too, but I did get one that was decorative chrome, as you can see. Now, with a full can of that, if I were to spray that into a special mix, of which this will be one part of the recipe, with that and some, let me see what kind of polish that I would have to do. I'll use whatever I can find. If it's only hard polish for a car, I'll use that, and I'll experiment, and I'll make something that I can then use as a dry brush technique, and I'll get there in the end. Sometimes what happens is that you use something as a substitute in desperation, and you find a wonderful effect that you can continue to use on other projects. So that is it. Let me count how many pieces the piece will have to come in. There's the main part of the desk, the top. There's the second part of the desk top. There's these two here. They'll be joined together and will run between these two pedestals. Okay, so they're going to be done in different colors. There are lots of little things that I might add as an afterthought. That's the whole thing about doing special paint finishes, that as you find something new as the job unfolds, especially if you're only pleasing yourself, then you can find lots of different ways of doing another thing. So I've got some little touches to add to this, and I'm debating at the moment whether I should go for the highlights in chrome, a chrome or steel, gunmetal, or possibly an aluminum look, or doing them in gold. It depends on how flamboyant I'm feeling when I get to that point. So thanks for looking in. If you found this interesting, I would hope that you will share to other people. Don't be put off by the mess. I will get this organized in my next step. These little tables, I've managed to use them enough to be able to do the job. They'll be replaced by a proper 8x4 solid work bench. So anybody that might be interested, and your friends, please share. It's been wonderful how you have supported us in sharing our other videos. We are now over that hump of 262,000, which for some reason YouTube refused to let us move from there, even though we were putting out a lot of videos. Well, I hope you will follow and see how this job finally unfolds. We're getting close. Bye for now.